Oh, thank you so much, Elizabeth. I just want to go more because I know you're doing incredible work as well, and you've been traveling recently. So can you also tell us about some of the things you've seen, what you've been talking about, and while you've been traveling more on the international front?
Yes, I've actually been away from home right now for so many weeks. I've been home for months right now. And one of the main reasons is the fact that for this work that we do, and I like to give a good example with the children that we are working with at the Green Generation Initiative. These children are every day trying to make a difference, trying to green their schools. But it is the same children that when they look out of their school compounds, they see big businesses and corporations cutting down bigger ecosystems, fueling deforestation. They still see countries also greatly investing in fossil fuels. That is clear through the science that we have to make certain drastic changes and cut emissions. And so it is these things that also in a huge way continue to undermine the efforts of the same children that are trying to create that future. And so being able to use my voice on international platforms to tell stories of these frontline communities, but also to urge everyone else to take urgent action, because this work cannot be left to only a small group of people, to the children, to the young people. It needs to take collective action and also international solidarity from the whole world and all the countries and communities as well, because we already know what science says we must do. And so for the past few weeks, I have spent my time in different summits that have actually where the leaders have been gathering, just to remind them not what they don't know that they should do, but also to remind them what they already know they must do and what science says we must do to be able to act at the scale and speed needed to address this climate crisis. And for me, being able to carry along these stories of communities to these forums, reminding people what is at stake, and being able to push for certain agenda items like loss and damage, reminding leaders that we have to address these impacts of the crisis right now, but also make sure that what is at the center of the decisions we are making is the frontline communities. And so for the past few weeks, I have been to forums like the World Economic Forum, where I definitely did feel a huge disconnect between what I'm hearing in the inside with the conversations going on, but also what the people in the outside are demanding for an end in rising inequalities, an end in how slowly we are tackling the climate crisis. And for me, I use these platforms to remind the leaders the need that we need to act urgently, because these communities are not waiting for the impacts to hit in the future. It's affecting them right now. And for us to show that we have international solidarity, we have to take the real urgent steps that we need to take right now. And just reminding people that we need to remember the human stories of this crisis and not just talk about what is really not important, but also talk about what is possible and what is important for everyone right now. And I have also been to forums where I've seen how it is important for the whole world to take an example of young people. And for instance, the Stockholm Plus 50 forum, where we were able to mobilize like different young people, that young Kenyans who are delegates at the Stockholm Plus 50 conference. And we were able to organize a meeting with our president where we got him to commit to establishing a youth presidential climate commission within 2 days. And just seeing how fast young people can mobilize and make things happen and make things move very quickly is one of the reasons why we really would like to see the same energy coming from the forums where the leaders are trying to do these things. And most recently, I have focused a lot on loss and damage, and especially calling for loss and damage finance by bringing in the human stories of what is happening back in my community, especially with the drought situation. And I just sent out a letter demanding for loss and damage finance at COP27 to the COP27 and COP26 presidencies. And this is a letter that has right now gone live on the website or the Oxfam websites, demanding people to actually listen to the frontline communities and feel their sufferings, but also most importantly, have them at the center and at the heart of the places where the decisions are being made. And this is one of the things that I would really call on everyone to sign to the letter on loss and damage, because we need to have some of these agendas on the front line when it comes to the kind of outcomes we get even out of COP27 that is coming to Africa.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I want to go to Dr. Boyd. Dr. Boyd, can you please tell us, do you think there's hope, or where do you think we can find hope that things are actually changing from your perspective?
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, it's terrifically inspiring to hear from Elizabeth and the amazing work that she's doing. And what we need to recognize is that the right to a healthy environment is a catalyst for transformative societal change. So if we look back through recent centuries of human history, anytime there's been like a powerful social movement that has changed the course of human history, they have had human rights at the heart of their efforts. So if you think of the abolitionists who worked to end slavery, they based their campaigns on equality and freedom. If you look at the women's rights movement that has made such great progress over the last 100 years, again, focused on the right to equality. The people who campaigned to end apartheid in South Africa, again, placed human rights at the center. And so in the face of this triple environmental crisis of the climate emergency, the collapse of nature, and pollution that kills 9 million people a year, as Harry mentioned, the right to a healthy environment really is a powerful tool for change. And we've seen it used in recent months. I can tell you about a court case I was involved in South Africa, brought by very courageous people living in the Mpumalanga region of South Africa, which suffers some of the worst air quality on the planet. And they brought a lawsuit against the government of South Africa, arguing that their constitutional right to a healthy environment was violated by air pollution and the government's failure to clean up that air pollution. And they won that case, and the court ordered the government to bring in regulations to improve air quality in the Mpumalanga region. Similar case in Indonesia just a few months earlier, where air quality in Jakarta, which is killing thousands of people every year, was the basis of a lawsuit by people bringing a case based on their right to a healthy environment. And there are cases like this happening all across the world, in Chile, in Ecuador, in Argentina, in South Africa, in Kenya. And this is really encouraging, because when people have the right to a healthy environment, it means that they have a right to clean air, safe and sufficient water, healthy and sustainably produced food, healthy ecosystems and biodiversity, non-toxic environments where they can live, work, study, and play, and a safe climate. And so most recently, we've seen a case in the state of Hawaii where the right to a healthy environment was interpreted by the Supreme Court of Hawaii as including the right to a safe, livable climate. So the right to a healthy environment really is this powerful catalyst that can bring about transformative change, and is already beginning to do so. And that's why it's so important for the United Nations General Assembly to recognize this right as belonging to every single person on this beautiful planet that we share.
Thank you. I want to move to Mr. Dames. From your perspective, what would you say to individuals to inspire them on their journey towards a more peaceful and sustainable world?
Well, I think by far and most important, what we need is to have governments move, to have parliaments that control governments, have governments move. And this is why I'm pushing, together with so many friends in the parliamentary network in the Council of Europe, to convince 46 governments to agree on inscribing a healthy environment in the European Convention of Human Rights. And David is right, you got an enormous moral value, and even more than that when you put it in the Universal Declaration. Difference with the European Convention is that it is a legally binding instrument. You've got court cases going on, lawsuits, that's good. But if we would be able to have the healthy environment as a fundamental right inscribed like in the European Constitution, with the European Convention is, then every citizen, young and old, has got the right to go to court and to put the government in front of the Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg after having done it in their home country and if they didn't win. And so it is going from, let's say, holding responsible the political word, going into holding accountable the political word. Because today, holding responsible the political word means that they do something, and let's say once every 4 or 5 years, by having a vote, you can say yes or no. This is different. Here you can hold accountable the government every day of the year. And so that's why we are moving on it. And this is also why we are trying to get young people on board, by the way. Elizabeth and so many others, we had young people, Anuna in Belgium, because what we want to do, we want to create a bandwagon where when we move out with our network, we've got a couple of members of parliaments in each of these 46 countries. We want to link up to the young people, build up pressure for the parliament to tell the government, yes, support the fact that we need to inscribe this right into what is the European Convention of Human Rights, which basically is a European constitution. If we do that, then we've got so much more than individual lawsuits that are so important, because now they're like showcases, but it is not really the fundament on which you can build further. And so if we, on a European base, it's not the European Union, no, it's 46 countries on the European continent. If we would be able to inscribe it into the convention itself, giving an individual right to every citizen to hold accountable the governments if they don't do what they should do, then that I hope David and Harry and Elizabeth that also will give more power, by the way, to all of you to use it and to push even further than that. Because time is, time is running out so long already. And so what I do feel is that a large part of the political world is on board. Now, why do you go from policy to principle? Because basically today, the environmental issue is a policy issue. You make a budget. Oh, what are we going to choose? We're going to try to do something for the climate, or are we going to, give some money to poor people? I mean, this is the choices that you have to make. Are we going to build some buildings for the government? Once you go from policy to principle, that discussion is over. If that is combined with a legally binding right embedded in a convention, there's no more discussion on it. I mean, the government has to do it. That's it. One example that would change it. Today, we got a terrible situation in Europe, the Ukrainian war. Now, governments are saying in order to provide for energy, we're going to reopen fossil fuel power plants. Say what? Say what? This is what's happening today. Now, if this would be in the European Convention today, they would be blocked to do so, and they would be forced to take other ways that would respect the environment. It's just a very, very practical example. At this instance, governments in Europe are doing the opposite that what they should do in terms of environmental protection. And yes, you can combine both. It's a question of making choices. And so in the political world, I've been a minister a long time enough to know that if you want to have a minister move, you better push him in the right direction, because otherwise it won't happen.